Hello, it's season 3 of Lay Back With Betfair. I'm Tom Haylock. I'm joined by two superstars of the game. Start with you, Reece Goodwin, horse trainer from Pakenham. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be involved.
Don't sound too excited, mate. Get up. Come on. Come on.
I'm a little bit nervous at the time, you know? Give me a break.
Well, that'll change soon. And Jules Vallance, welcome, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm a little bit more excited than Reece. But, I'm happy for us to do this again if we want.
No, we'll run with it. I like it.
It's funny.
Good start.
It's funny.
Huge weekend of racing coming up. Don't know, you guys would have tuned in the show, done your prep work, no doubt. You know what it's all about, but huge weekend of racing. Group 1 racing returns. I can't wait for that. Sandown Hillside instead of Caulfield. We've got the CF4. Randwick as well, the Apollo Stakes, a couple of Group 2s, so it's all hotting up. You excited for the weekend, guys?
I am, yeah. For sure. The good horses are back. Yep. I train myself, but I love sitting back on the weekend and watching these good horses. A lot of them look to troll it up well. So, yeah, there's a lot of good racing and looking forward to seeing him step out. Looking
forward to getting your opinion from, you were a jockey previously, now a horse trainer. So you've got a great insight and offer something different to this show, which is great. So not only do we have one guest, we've got two this season, which is great. Jules, pumped for the weekend?
Absolutely. I mean, it can be a bit of a grind with the punt. We get through winter, we get through some months where the summer, where it's off-season, really diluted form. And all of a sudden you see these horses like Animo, In Secret come back. Jack and O, Thunderstruck. You lighten up Wednesday and you're pretty keen to do the form Thursday, Friday, and then you play on Saturday.
Yeah, can't wait to get stuck into it. First of all, this show starts with a lay-bin. I'll go first, set the precedence here. The producer of this show ordered coffees for us. Jules, you don't drink any hot liquid, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I don't understand it. So the reason is, I don't even know how this came up. Because I always was taught that to have a drink, you just quench your thirst and it's always hot, you need to cool down. So I don't understand this coffee, tea, whatever.
Do you drink soup?
No, and what is that? So what is that? Is that a food or is that a drink? Honestly, what is it? Because it's
so
bizarre.
Do you
use a fork for soup? Or do you? Oh, it's not a rhetorical question.
There's nothing like something that covers both.
It's an abomination soup
like
as well.
So put that in coffee. Is that a meal or?
No. So that's part of some weird thing. Look, I hate the smell of coffee, yet I love the smell of petrol. And I don't know what's in that, but anyway.
So do you just wake up and have a bit of water in the morning? Does that get you going?
Do a couple other things, but yes, yeah. That's what I do.
That's the first wake up. I won't ask. Good start of the show. And you ordered a caramel latte.
Yeah.
Are you taking the mickey or?
Oh, well, lucky I didn't go skinny caramel latte. That's what I was thinking I should have went, but I thought I might scare you right off. But yeah, caramel latte.
How was your honey? I didn't have caramel downstairs. How was your honey?
That should probably be in the lay-bin, to be fair. That would be one of the first places to order a coffee that doesn't have caramel. I thought it was quite popular.
Was the honey all right?
It was okay.
It was okay.
I'm sticking with caramel.
Speaking, what else is in the lay-bin? I don't know if you guys seen the Indian first test, Australia versus India, starting today. Indians doctoring the pitch over there. It is some of the footage, some of the stuff going on. That's a huge lay for me. No doubt the ICC aren't going to do anything with the power of India, but that's a huge lay for me. Just at least prepare the pitch evenly throughout the whole deck. Right? I don't care if you produce a green top or whatever. Just make sure it's even. Don't get a patch and water a patch outside off for the left-handers. Ridiculous. Jules, what do you got for us?
Oh, I actually really like that. I think they should do more of that in Test cricket. So I'm against it. Summer in Melbourne. I don't think we've had one. And I'm big on numbers, so let's break it down.
Oh.
December this year, we've had 5 times over 30. You wouldn't know, because you wouldn't look at me. You'd think, this bloke doesn't like summer at all. He doesn't like the sun. I can tell you, I like getting out amongst it in the beach. Had no opportunities. 5 times in December over 30. 2 of those, one of those was Christmas Day, so ruined by your family. And the other day was the 27th because I was still sticking around. So there's outliers there. So you got 3 days in December.
You put family in the lay-bin too.
You got 7. Yeah, they're no good. You got 7. You got 7 times in January compared to 18 last year, and I think it was 13 in December. And February we haven't got over 21 degrees, and it was snowing last week.
It was. You're a stats man, I can tell. I look forward to your input throughout the racing season. Reece, just a standard one for you, I think.
Well, I want to give credit to Jules first. That's some good
research?
Background, to do on that.
I focus a lot on the sun, mate.
I didn't think you were coming with that much. I thought it would have just might have been a bit of a rant, but he's got the numbers.
We've got the rant there as well, don't worry.
Look, mine will be pretty quick, and it's only because I've had to do a bit of form for this.
Yeah.
Just a jump out trial situation here in Victoria, it was hard to do. I did Sydney first and found that very smooth and easy going, and then I got to Victoria, and yeah, it's hard to keep up with. So that's my quick one.
There you go. Yeah, they need to fix that. Let's get stuck into some races, hey? We've got the Blue Diamond Preludes, the Colts, the Geldings, the Fillies. Race 3 is the Colts and Geldings version. Now, we've got the rail out 10 metres. Interesting point of topic here. The 1,100 metre start, there's 4 1,100 metre races on the day. It's actually from the shoot start with the rail out 10. And the winning post has been pushed back 80 metres, which is a weird nuance. And the data guys won't know what's happening here with this start point, obviously moved from Caulfield. What do you make of that, Jules?
It's important for the punters to understand.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of punters will be out there going, okay, it's around the circle, so gates will be really important. Once we get into these shoots, we've seen it at Pakenham. They ran around the circle and then all of a sudden they changed when I think they got the lighting fixed and now it becomes a shoot. And there's no issue for wide gates at all. The other factor that you mentioned is about the big teams. Well, they've got no data. So whether they want to really play into this space, I mean, we saw with Pakenham shoot races now are so much faster than what they were as a circle. So the data completely changes. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see what turnover is in these kinds of races, but I think probably the lesson for the punters that we need to worry about for Saturday is I don't think you'd be worried about wide gates.
No, I think that's key. Yep. And I obviously know a horse trainer I was speaking to and he was going to scratch from a wide barrier the 1,100 metres without knowing that it was a shoot start. Yeah. And I said, no, it's a shoot start. Wide barriers mean much less, so very interesting. We start with race 3, the Group 3 Blue Diamond Prelude for the Colts and Geldings. It is an 1,100 metre start. Some people call me the likely leader here, but not a lot of speed in the race. We'll start with you, Reece. Barber looks like set to go favourite here.
Yeah, look, I was taken by this horse. I hadn't known a lot about him because he'd been in Sydney, but he was awkward away on debut and he still won really well. And then he was even more awkward away in the Golden Gift. And he was it was a fast run race, which was probably set up for a back marker, but for a 2-year-old to be chasing sort of 600 out off the bridle and he still got over the top of him, I thought that was massive. And then he's trialled twice in Sydney. The first one, very typical Godolphin, quiet trial. But I thought the best 2 things about his trials were he's jumped well. And I think that's going to be key in these sort of big races. He's learnt to jump with them. And I think with Jamie Carr on board, I think he's a bet for me.
Jamie Carr generally settles further forward than you would expect with most jockeys. That's her great strength and gets them to settle under. So that's a really interesting point. And Barber has jumped well in that Hawkesbury jump out. Just firstly, your knowledge. You're running with no piece, like at least he's got a piece of paper. You're running with nothing and your memory's outstanding for... You've done your research too.
If my memory was shot at this age, I'd be in a lot of trouble.
Oh, you got me covered anyew. So you're with Barber on top. Have you got anyone you want to be against or just naturally you're against it?
I was a little bit against the WA 2-year-old, only because it's a massive trip to come all the way from over there. But, the Casey team, aren't bringing it over just to muck around. So I sort of respect that, and I respect that Ollie's taken the ride too. But I just thought, big trip for 2-year-old, was obviously beating up on lesser opposition over there. But I just thought at the price, I would have had Barber much shorter than what the WA horse Brave Halo is.
Yep. Brave Halo's last win rated really well, Jules. What do you make of the race?
I think it's impossible. And the reason why I think this race is impossible is because you've got the different form lines. So you've got this Perth horse coming across.
You've got a Sydney horse and a Perth horse.
Correct. And then you've got the Victorian form, which I'm a little bit sceptical of, so I'm worried about that. But also you've got the fact that we're 2-3 weeks out from the actual grand final. So you don't need to win your first final. You need to win the big dance. So you got to work out where these horses...
Okay, PVL.
Slotted that in nicely.
That's a tick, yes. So... For me, I found this one really tricky compared to, of the 2 Preludes, this was the one that I really couldn't screw down because I just didn't know about Brave Halo. Like, the numbers are there, you're right, rated through the roof. The SP's there for you. I mean, $1.16 last start. It's not starting $1.16 because they think it's okay. The big data-driven teams are nailing this because $1.55 the start before and it starts $11 on debut and that's irrelevant. But it's running as quicker times as the older horses over there. So, yes, the last 400, 200 is really good. So there's no doubt it's got plenty of ability, but I'm with Reece as well. This trip over for a 2-year-old is a big trip, so you got to take that into account. Barber, debut really good. I get Reece's point with the second start, but I'm not heavily into its corner. Like, to be honest, I'd be happy to lay the top 2 in the market to a certain point to let people on because I just didn't think the race, I didn't have much of an opinion on the race. What I will say is that unraced Amigo, and it won't say it in the form guides, is really important. So it went to the preview, I think it was, 21 into 7, and I think the important that 7 was at the death. So when these 2-year-old unraced horses are holding their price right at the death, you can go, okay, it's there. So it won't say it on the form guides, but 21 into 7 at the death, scratched at the barrier. Amigo obviously got plenty of ability.
And that's a fair play, laying 2 horses. Barbara and Brave Halo might be your option there. The reason why I didn't want to lay Brave Halo probably just settles closer than Barber. There's not a lot of speed, so that's an interesting one as well. Interesting with these 1100 metre races with the huge run of the first turn, it's only dogleg tempo. You see them packing them. I know the times are faster than the circle, but they don't often go that quick because they're such a long run. You can settle and find a position. So interesting to see how that goes in the pace of the races. I'm with you, Jules. I've got no idea. Happy to let this one go through to the keeper. Race 4, we see the Blue Diamond Prelude for the fillies. Again, 1100 metres. This is a little sexist here, Group 2, where the Colts and Geldings are Group 3.
Comes up every year.
Yeah, it does come up every year.
I think they do it with some of the 3-year-old races
I don't know
as well.
how it even happened in the first place.
Is it because they rated higher, or is that?
No, it's not. I don't. Well, possibly. I mean, back in the old day, yeah, you had to rate certain many years above a certain rating to get to the group, but
then also it comes back to like why, like at a yearling sale, you probably might want to buy a colt because you're going to be racing for better status rather than a filly. You know, you go back all the way to that.
Well, fillies are Group 2, so anyway, let's Charmstone favourite coming off a really good win. First up here, Mick Price said during the week it might be one of the best 2-year-olds he's trained. That's a glowing push.
He's had a few good ones.
Yeah, he's had a few good ones. Cigar Flick, probably the second favourite here over from Sydney. I'll start with you this time, Jules.
Yeah, they're the 2 that I only want to be with.
Yep.
So Cigar Flick brings the learning to fly form, which is the right form, I think, for probably a slipper point of view. And we'll probably talk about it a little bit later, that horse. But that's the right form line. But the other one is Charmstone. I think it's a bet for me, Charmstone, because I am completely throwing in the bin that Dasonic Boom form line. They went outside standard time in the last 400, 200, I think it was 12.5 last 200, which is the worst of the day by far. Now, I want to be seeing something. If you're outside standard, I want you to be coming home just about best of the day. They just didn't. No margins across the track, so 2.5 lengths, I think, first 7. So I'm getting rid of that form line, so there's not much left. And I think Charmstone's a really good horse. I think that Flemington run, obviously it failed on debut, but it was a shorty. Comes out, wins next start. Last 400 to him was just as good as Joyful Fortune on the same day. That stacks up for me. And yes, again, not the grand final, but I think it's got panels on the Victorian horses, that form line, and they're the 2. I think Cigar Flick will tighten up in the market. It has to. The percentage has to go somewhere, and I think it goes into those 2.
I agree with you regarding Cigar Flick, and just watch that race. James McDonald was pretty soft on Cigar Flick late and on the line. May have cost it 3rd, which was interesting. He wasn't picked up by the stewards, but interesting one there. I've got a big opinion of Cigar Flick, and I agree. I think that'll shorten and get closer to Charmstone.
Yeah, the only one concern I have with Cigar Flick is the barrier. Now, I know we say we don't care about the barriers, but just because it's not the grand final, I can't see them wanting to bust hard. So
Typical
if they just,
Waller, they'll snag
just
back
find a backside and then finish off, and then, okay, let's get to the grand final full of momentum. So that's just the one knock with Cigar Flick with that gate.
Reece, you're with something different?
Yeah, look, you'll probably quickly work out I'm not much of a favourites man. I love something at a bit of odds.
Yep.
And I was against Cigar Flick only because I don't go off sort of facts and figures. I'm just watching replays, to be fair.
Yep.
And I thought the first up win was good, but was in sort of ordinary conditions. A few of them might not have handled it. And then I thought the other day in Sydney sort of had the right run, loomed. Yes, the ones in front of her might have had a softer run, but I thought she was
good, I reckon. I
think it's probably the right form line, but I thought she was quite soft.
Yep.
And certainly didn't want any further. And then I was happy to go with Beauty Rising, Stokesy's horse, down from my neck of the woods. I thought.
Any male from here? Speaking of Stokesy,
no male. He's very quiet, Stokesy.
Is he?
Yeah, barely get boo out of him.
Really?
Barely get boo out of him. But I thought her debut run was very good. She chased the whole way, still come off their backs, and ran a really nice second. And then Hayes' horse went to the Gold Coast, and it wasn't disgraced in the good race up there, and pulled up with a bit of colic, so might have had a small excuse. And then she's had a jump out in between and trialled very sharply. So I thought at the price, drawn middle of the line, might get she might settle a bit closer, and I just thought at the price was an each way bet.
Bit of value there. Number 13, Beauty Rising for Reece. Race 5, the Kevin Hayes Stakes, 1100 metres. Fantastic race. This is a race I'm very keen on. We'll start with you here, Jules, because I think we might have a different opinion.
I think we do. So here, this is a bit when I do the form and I look at probably the first part is you can look back at history with these kinds of races. Now, it doesn't predict the future, but no horse in the last 20 years has been able to carry more than 57.5 kilos. So you can get a guide there that sometimes there's a sweet spot with these kinds of races. Doesn't mean a horse that with the top weight can't win, but I just have that as a factor sometimes when you're looking at things.
Are you putting a pen through She's Lickety Split on the back of that kind of intel?
Not on the back of that, but it's part of it.
Yeah.
It's part of it. You have to be obviously a really good horse to be able to carry that weight in this kind of race for whatever reason. Now, that's not. I don't go, okay, well now he can't win because the history's telling me that.
Yep.
But it does have some type of influence on my price. I settled on She's Dancers here. Now I know she might not be the best filly that comes out of this race, but the fact is 11 of these horses are first up. I don't know where they are in their preps. They could be a little bit soft in that last 200 metres, 100 metres, whereas this horse is rock hard fit. Won its last three. In particular, I was taken with the last win, and yes, had all the favours at Moonee Valley. I cop all that, but still ran really quick time. I loved its last 400, 200, and I just think he can control this race. Jamie Carr goes on. No better front-running rider, just about. Can control, sit out. I've got no issue with sitting out wide on the way that I think this track's going to play. I think it might just be too fast for them because I just think these other ones might need the run. But I will say, at the death on the exchange is going to be your best friend with these 11 horses that are first up because you're going to know which ones are screwed down and which ones actually do need the run and which horses might actually go forward and which ones are going to be ridden conservative because they don't have the fitness. So best friend exchange at the death.
Third 1100 metre race in a row, so you get an idea how the track's playing and how She's Dancers look suited. You've got Queen of the Bull likely to probably She's Dancers follows Queen of the Bull across. You've got H2O who'll kick up from the inside. That looks the speed in the race. Interesting, She's Dancers might have to work a little bit to cross if they cross or probably settle 2 or 3 deep anyway. And from that standpoint, I'm against She's Dancers. She met Le Danse Rouge, H2O, OEA back in the Red Rose, I think it was, down the Flemington Straight. And we saw H2O win that. Le Danse Rouge run second. They put a big gap on She Dancers, and then She Dancers come out and won 3 in a row. Probably got a fitness edge over a few of these. That's the advantage. But just at the price, I thought she'll drift. So I'm keen to lay her as it is. I've got a huge opinion on Le Danse Rouge. Trialled up superbly the other day. Really nice jump out race. You messaged me last night and said trialled superbly as well. H2O goes around a big price, underrated as well. But I like one here at a big price over from Sydney, Cythera. Each way, $20, betfair.com.au. She's a filly with upside. She's had 2 starts. Loved her recent trial at Rose Hill. Really impressive. Maps perfectly. I like the jockey booking as well.
Massive jockey booking.
I think you agree, Reece.
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel as though the Snowdens, they try and pinpoint Zara when they come down here. I Am Superman's one that comes to mind. But yeah, I'm with you with Cythera at the price. I thought both her trials recently have been really sharp. She's got the best of Bordeaux form, Lady Laguna. And she's drawn to get the right run in behind them, and I think I don't think they would bring her down here sort of just to have a run. I think she's pretty forward and she can run well.
I like that. 2 trials set for this race, I think. Draws well. Zara on's a good booking, so big price. She brings different form. A lot of these do kind of tie in. She might be one with different form that's ready to grow. So I think at the $20, she's just a bet. So Cythera, I'm against She Dancer. She's my lay in the race at the price. If she gets out to $9, $10, $11, I wouldn't lay her, but that's my opinion on the Kevin Hayes Stakes, the Group 3 there. We move to race 6, the Rubiton 1100 metres. Reece, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I couldn't be more happy with being on Marine 1 at the double figure price. I think he's about 10 to 1. He's jumped out really nicely, this horse. I think he might have even had 3 jump outs, which is means he's pretty forward from the Mars stable. Always shown a lot of ability. Gets Zara again, who I think is going to have a big day. But yeah, his trials have been really good. Happy to be with him at the price. She'll get the right run. And yeah, just thought at $10, I was quite surprised after watching his jump outs.
Your man Zara on board. Interesting, the stable have got Generation and Marine 1 here for different owners. Zara and Mellum ride. Market's going to be really interesting with those two. We see when there's good money for these stables and these owners that they're very correct often. So interesting, Marine 1 Generation there. Jules, which way are you leaning?
Didn't know what to do because I love Uncommon James as a horse.
Yeah.
I think it's on the border. We already know that it's on the border of a Group 1 being a Group 1 horse, but I mean a genuine weight for age Group 1 horse. That's how much ability I think this horse has got. But I don't know where it's at, and I'm not here to say they're not there to win the race, but they just might ride a little bit more conservative than we think. Now, I think probably this horse goes to an Oakley Plate. At the moment, with the way I think Marabi probably be top weight, this horse probably carries 52.5 with it in an Oakley Plate. Wins this, probably got to carry 55. I know weight's not everything, but in Oakley Plates, which is going to be really competitive this year, giving away 2.5 kilos in your Group 1, I think is important. So I just didn't know what to do with those two horses, It and Chain of Lightning, who I think is going to get a better probably run than Uncommon Janes. And so because I didn't know what to do with those two, I just thought it was a no-bet race for me. I just couldn't work out what was going to happen. But again, I think the market will tell us where those two horses are, and the two horses you mentioned that are first up, who have got quality horses. I mean, Marie won this race last year on the Min, I think. So it's a good race. I want to see these horses. It's one of those races where you go, I love watching this race, but I'm not going to
You're going to find out a lot more.
Yeah.
What do you make? I often like backing the class horses now in the autumn as opposed to in the spring, first up, because there's such a bigger break, and you will see this over the winter months. Race, obviously the winter coats, and that's why you see them go to Queensland and actually run really well early spring. Whereas the gap between the spring and the autumn is shorter. It's over summer. They usually sprint well fresh. You agree?
Yeah, I agree. I was with Uncommon Janes. I think his class could get him over the line, but he's also got to remember he's coming off a little injury too.
Yep.
So I think they would love to see him come through and run really well. So I was with Jules with that, but I don't want to be against him either because I think he's obviously going to be basically Group 1 horse if he comes through unscattered.
I mean, he's such a good horse that I think last start he jumps so cleanly. He can sit 1-1 Uncommon Janes, but they actually, so it'll be really interesting to if they go, we just want to find backsides here and then let him finish off the injury.
That's it.
And then heading towards an Oakley plate. So fascinating, because if he lobs 1-1, they won't know which way he goes.
No, that's right. I think it'd be too brilliant.
It'll be game over.
Maybe have a sneaky bet in run.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great shout. Yeah.
So his trial at Dagon was very good as well. Uncommon James, who's come back. I've got him on top again. I don't really want to dive in at the shorts there, but I concede he's the horse to beat. Let's get to the big one. The Orr Stakes, a fascinating race. We talk about horses first up, class horses versus rock hard fit horses. You've got Tuvalu, Gentleman Roy looked to speed in the race. Then you've got a couple of Mick Price horses that probably get back in the run. Their class horse like I'm Thunderstruck, who's trialled enormously leading in. I was really taken with the trial of I'm Thunderstruck. He's come back really well. Him and the stablemate worked at Sandown during the week as well, which might be important. Jules, kick us off, mate.
Map's important here. If you can find out the leader and what's going to be leaders back, I reckon it just about gets the result for you. And without knowing what the tactics are going to be, certain horses, I think the market in the last 5 minutes tells you that. So we know that Gentleman Roy needs to go fast and probably has to hold the lead. But there's some intent that we see from Tuvalu that they go blinkers first time. Now, if you go blinkers first time, you're not going to theoretically ride conservative. And I was going to ask you, Reece, like from a training perspective, if I'm going first up into a race and I put blinkers first time, the intent I would assume is we're going to be positive.
100%. Well, yeah, he's not there to muck around.
Yeah.
They want to go there and win that race. I mean, it doesn't matter what Group 1 they win. Any Group 1 wins is going to be a good win for him. So, yeah, blinkers on, first time, gate 1. Jared Fry, another really good front-running jockey as well.
Off a 1,200-metre trial as well. Everything there says intent, which is huge in these early spring, early autumn races.
There was a lot of intent in that jump out, at that trial at Geelong the other day. And I heard Lindsay after it say that Jared just got off straight away and said this horse needs blinkers. So they've put him on. There'll be no doubt they're going to be super positive on him.
You mentioned intent, and I think it's really important for a race like the Orr Stakes. You go back through the last 10 years, and the horses that have won it, they've been on-speed horses. Now, I know that's a core field, so again, we have to temper that a little bit going to the hillside. But horses like Alabama Express weren't the best horse in the race, but what they did was they controlled the race. And that's why I think it's important to find out, because Tuvalu's drawn 1 and Gentleman Roy's drawn 2, one of them ends up probably getting leaders back and not actually sitting outside it, because I have a feeling Calcine Mav could actually probably push forward as well.
Yep.
It's a horse that at its best probably has a grinding run. It doesn't have that great turn of foot that it needs to probably roll forward. So it's fascinating in terms of trying to work out the map, because I think if you can work out the map, then you know, okay, because I think if Tuvalu doesn't get lead, I think it's in a world of hurt leaders back.
It's an interesting point, because blinkers first time, horses can jump a little slow.
Correct.
So
was there a scenario that if Gentleman Roy goes quick enough, he'll just pop off his back and be outside him?
Possibly, but then that was the other thing that I reckon that's what they would hope to do. But if Calcine Mav has actually got some intent as well from that wide draw, then it gets to OSL, and all of a sudden Tuvalu has to take that.
They'll be very cautious of that.
And you've got Turith as well, who's drawn inside. That's a horse that obviously want to sit in 1-1 somewhere like that. So fascinating. Work out the map. I reckon you work out the answer. What we do know is Thunder will go back, and Jacquino probably goes 3-back rail.
Yes.
And needs luck.
Jacquino will be ahead of I'm Thunderstruck in the run.
Correct.
Is that advantage Jacquino?
It's advantage Jacquino, but it needs the brakes, because Thunder's going to be able to pull out. Jamie's going to be able to pull out with Thunder whenever she wants.
Yeah.
whereas Damien's
Relying
probably
on
going to
luck.
be a little bit, okay, I need some luck here, I need some luck. And if they go slow enough, I don't think that worries Jacquinot. I mean, his performance first up, everyone was saying no margins, didn't beat much. They went so slow you couldn't run over all time. But his last 400, 200, I think, was the best of the day, and that was in a race where, on a day that Star Patrol won as well and blitzed the clock. So he's going as good as ever, Jacquinot. He just needs luck, and that's why I'm with him, and I'm happy to lay Thunder.
He's got a bit more intent about him as well than on Thunderstruck.
Yeah.
So that's what I look for in these 1400 metre early season races. Intent is a big one. I agree with you. I love I'm Thunderstruck as a horse. I think his trial was as good as he has trialled, so I'm wary about laying him for too much.
Yeah.
But just the intent there, he'll go back, he'll run on. I haven't got a strong opinion in the race either. Reece?
I'm a massive Jacquinot fan.
Yep.
Real fanboy, mainly because I got 51's Golden Rose.
Oh,
Yeah, that was...
that'll do it.
Exactly. And yeah, loved his first up win. As Jules said, best last 400, 200 of the day. Same day Star Patrol won, so he's not mucking around.
Yeah.
One time he's been to 1400, he beat In Secret, who I'm also a big fan of. The start's critical because he's been awkward away so many times, and he was awkward away again the other day, which put him in that awkward spot. So if he can at least jump cleanly, I think that's going to help him, because if he's awkward away against some of these horses, yes, he's got to run up on a few of them, but I'm not sure he's going to be that much better than him. So it'll come down to luck at the right time and beginning properly.
You make a point about the times first up. He couldn't have done any more, Jacquinot.
To the eye, it wasn't a massive win, but the times backed it up.
But you look at him at the 300. You're like, he was hit $7 or $8 in play.
Exactly,
He's
yeah. That's telling you something.
winning. It's a great run.
There's a few other horses there, though, boys, that are interesting. Like Mr. Brightside winkers off with the bad gate, probably has to go back, you would think. So they take their medicine, you think probably can't win if it goes all the way back. So there's a few there where you go, okay, Mr. Brightside sort of single figures at the moment. You'd think that the big guys probably take a set against it.
Yep.
So then all of a sudden the market percentage has got to go somewhere else, and there's probably a couple other horses that you think, then Aegon probably not going to be there. Nugget's a fascinating horse who's going to try and make this leap, who's probably going to get a really good run. What do they do with him? There's a few bit to play out, I think, with some market percentage of where they're going to go, and I think it goes into the 3-year-old. That's my belief.
I think it goes into the map as well.
Yeah.
Those that you expect to lead or settle close, it might go into those horses that are going to be there to win, like a Tuvalu. It's going to be fascinating. Head to Betfair Live as well. Watch the market late. The last 5 minutes is going to be fascinating betting. Change tune now before we get stuck into the Inglis Millennium, the Light Fingers and the Apollo Stakes at Randwick. We're just going to do a little bit of a back to school, very basic, starting from scratch here, on form, basically, how to look for form. And the first thing is, and you'll see this when acceptances come out, you I guess you bring up Racing Australia and you look for what we're looking at in terms of the race conditions, track conditions and everything. So you get to Racing Australia and you head to the top there, and it obviously says a few key things. So you got rail position, out 10 metres, Sandown, key point of reference. Track condition, what track you're playing on, what surface, the weather obviously as well, and a bit more track condition. Then you scroll down to the race, so you go to something like the CF4. You look at I'm Thunderstruck's form. Track record with firstly trainer, track record, prize money, his record at the distance, the track, everything's there for you to see. You have a look at the conditions of the race as well, which has the distance, what track you're playing on, set weights, standard weight for age, which the CF4 is as well, handicap, whatever it might be. After that, guys, what do you do in terms of form? I'll let you go first.
I'm huge sort of map barrier fan.
Yep.
As soon as fields come out for any of my runners, want to see the gate and they want to work out the map and just want to... In fairness, my advantage as a trainer is I get to see progressive acceptances.
Yes.
So on the morning, I can see what's accepted, where it would normally map, and then it comes down to gate. So I'm map and gate fan.
Yes.
And then, just work it out from there. Find out where you are going to be in the run, find out where everyone else is going to be in the run, see where they're drawn, and then just narrow it down from there. As I said previously, I'm more like a just watch replays sort of man, more than facts and figures. I haven't got into form that much yet. That's me.
Your form for a horse trainer is as good as anyone that I've heard, so kudos to you in terms of your memory of form, and the way you talk about form is fantastic, mate. What's your methodology around maps and barriers? Do you scratch a lot, or do you run them anyway? We see certain trainers, white barriers, they just go back and run on and use them as a trial. Or?
Tell you what, Tom, I'm pretty lucky. I've got a stable full of 58s, and there's 58 races every week for them. So I feel as though if it hasn't got a winning chance from the draw or map perspective, we'll just wait and save it 2 days later for another 58. Tracks come into it too, like Yarra Valley Saturday on-speed track, and then you go to Werribee Sunday. If you've got a 1,000 metre horse, Yarra Valley Saturday's a tight turning track, you want to go up in speed, where he's out of a shoot, as we talked about. Shoot racing compared to circle racing is completely different. So yeah, I'm certainly happy to scratch a horse if it doesn't map properly for the right run, because luckily for me, I don't have a lot of great horses at the moment. I can find another race for it in 2 weeks. But for these Group 1 horses, I'm thunderstruck. You know, Pricey's not going to stretch him from the draw. You know, he's got a set plan. He's still got to run regardless. So yeah, happy to wait for another day for sure.
Interesting. Jules?
Yeah, it's
You got lots of colours on
there's
a
few things there, mate, that make
He
no
grabs some
sense to even me.
A4 first. That's what he first gets. A bit of A4.
Yeah, reflex. Probably the key, you mentioned, riser I think is helpful to me. So I also, another thing I look at is irrigation. I think Victoria's got a little bit better in the last year, but I think probably 18 months ago, we overwatered our tracks a little bit. We were starting on soft 5, getting to good form. We might not even get there, and then we're getting lanes. I think this summer has been outstanding. We've race started on 4s, and we're getting to 3, and more or less we're starting on 3s. And that's, as a punter, and again, I'm probably speaking a little bit different, Reece, you probably want some juice in the track for your horse's feet.
Mustn't be any internationals over here, Jules.
Yeah, correct. But for me, I just love punting on fast tracks. So irrigation's always important that I check, which you can see at Riser as well. I look also, if it's a group race or a listed race, they do actually have the history. So you can just go back to the last 20 years. And again, it's just a tool that I use. I don't put everything into it, but it's just interesting to come up with some little factors of some horses are well suited compared to others. And then from there, I've got my base of, okay, how I think the track's going to play from the rail. I've got my own database that I've worked on for the last sort of 15 years of how I think this track's going to play in these kinds of conditions. And then from there, the map. And I do my own map. So I know there's plenty of places out there that have maps, but I actually go, I'm going to do my map, because I think
that's good.
Even though everyone else might have this horse going back, it's now third up and it's ready to peak. I wouldn't be surprised if they go forward. And if I get it wrong, I get it wrong. And I'm happy to get it wrong myself.
Find an edge.
Possibly, but I'm happy to die by the sword of my own making, because I don't want to trust, whoever put this horse fall back the rails, and I'm like, well, I'd rather do it myself. So
what platform do you use to do your maps? You just by hand? Or
just by hand. I'm just on paper. Yep. So just go off right. Mate, it's old school.
I like it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Real good.
I'm waiting for him to get the feather and ink out.
Too funny. We could talk about that for ages, and we might do that. Obviously, weights and measures and handicap ratings and the nature of the race, whether it be level weights. We see a couple in Sydney, the class horses come back in secret at level weights and whatnot. So that's always interesting, looking at the type of race and the weight measures, and whether it's weight for age or standard. Let's get to Sydney. Fascinating day. We see some champions of the turf return. Animo in secret. We start with a $2 million race. Nothing more Sydney than a $2 million race. The Inglis Millennium, 1,100 metres at Randwick. Race 6. Jules, you can kick off here, mate.
Yeah, I'll just start with the track. So I think they were soft 5. They're 27.5 mils yesterday.
And rain forecast Thursday.
But ripping days Friday and Saturday. So really hot days with, I think important for the punters to understand, there is on Saturday a northeasterly, 20 to 30 Ks. Now, once it gets to 20, 25 plus, we start having impact on how races can affect tracks. For example, Moonee Valley, I don't ever worry about wind, but a track like Caulfield, absolutely the northerly impacts.
Wind is crucial at Caulfield.
Absolutely, and even Randwick a little bit. The northeasterly, I think, is going to be a headwind into the chute for the sprint races. So just be careful, be mindful that also the jockeys understand that, and they actually ride for a little bit more cover. So maybe they're not as aggressive out of the gates. And I think that's interesting, especially for a horse who's learning to fly, who's drawn wide. Does it find a backside? But I just think it's the right form line. We spoke about it earlier when we spoke about a horse down in Victoria. That form line is white hot.
Also, rail back in true.
Yep.
So we saw rail out last week. We expected it to be on speed. It kind of was. It probably wasn't as fence-ish as I thought it would be. But back to the true, they might be swooping.
Yeah, I think for the shoot races, fair, the way I do it, fair for the shoot. Circle races, I want to be forward to midfield. Yeah. That's how I'm playing Saturday.
Running line or?
No, just fair? I just think fair, yep.
There you go. So you're with learning to fly despite the barrier?
Yeah, I am.
Better price?
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what the market does with it, because I would think the big teams will have this race going enormous. And then you've got to factor in, okay, what are the other factors that these big guys have? And they obviously have where the map's going to be, how the tracks, they think the track's going to play. Riders, what have they got in? Chad's actually going really well. I think he's probably a little bit maligned, but he's 4 from 22 in the Metro. He's exceeding market expectation, 18 versus 10.5. So
it's riding for a good trainer.
Yeah,
that helps.
Yeah, absolutely, sure does. So you've got to get opportunities, but you've got to also take those opportunities, Tom. So he's going really well. So I don't know what the market's going to do with this race because also they're babies and, we can't really take factors from the SP profile. Sometimes that gets diluted and you throw that out in these early door races. So I just think it's a bloody good horse learning to fly.
I think she's the best 2-year-old I've seen this season.
Yep.
I rubbished the 2-year-old form pre-Christmas, and that's done me well on the punt, to be honest. Learning to Fly was a good result for me first up. I've got her, the horse to beat. I don't want to dive in, but I think $4 is an even price. I think that's a fair price. I really like 14 Kundalini. We'll get a form reference with race 1 as well, the 2-year-old race earlier in the day. But that race rated really well. They put a big gap third. Fillies have got the edge over the Colts from what we've seen all season. Drawn well, Barrier 5, good stable. I think she's the danger. Number 14 there, Kundalini. And I've got Blanc de Blanc, who I think you're keen on. Trialled up really well, comes to the right, well, ties in with a few of these, but probably the run of the race from that lead up where the other two were inside, fence was stuck wide. Blanc de Blanc trialled enormous the other day. So they're my top 3. You with Blanc de Blanc?
Yeah, I am Blanc de Blanc. I've got to respect J Mac sticking with. He trialled it. He's the big dog in Sydney. I'm against learning to fly, and I'm sort of I'm on the opposite. I am. I'm the opposite way to. We talk about the Group 1s. We wanted to be on the horses that are fitter. I'm with the 2-year-olds that are coming back into a second prep. I think.
Really?
I think they can improve a lot. I think we're going off what we've seen, but I think from what I've seen, some of these other 2-year-olds trial. I'm just learning to fly was probably aimed for this race, but I think these others have ran early, been put away, and then aimed for a $2 million 2-year-old race.
Historically, looking at Golden Slippers, the winners have had to have a start before Christmas as well. So you make a fair point.
Yeah. I haven't got a great hold on Sydney form, but just going through, watching everything, look, take nothing away from learning to fly, but just from the gate, I wasn't sure what they were going to do. If you watch Blanc de Blanc's trial, they've been riding it a bit quieter. I think they've been sort of, I don't know, they didn't know they were going to draw wide, but they were making sure if they needed to settle, this horse was going to settle. There was a couple of others that trialled really good.
Arkansas Kid, Mexico, both trialled fantastically.
Lazargo trialled really good.
It's a great race.
The one of Dallazon, of Gerald Ryan's, trialled really good, drawn the pole, might get the right run right behind the speed. I just thought the ones, and these are all the ones I've mentioned, are the ones that have had a prep and coming back into their second prep, and it wouldn't surprise me if they jump out of the ground from what we've already seen. So I was happy to go with, basically the main reason I went with Blanc de Blanc was J-Mac. He trialled it. He probably could have ridden a few of them, and he stuck solid.
Probably could have ridden all of them.
Yeah, correct, and he stuck solid. So despite the wide draw there too, I think they're going to ride, sort of second, third pair, hopefully blend in and just get the right run.
Yeah. Anything to add, Jules?
No, it's going to be a really good race, but I'm going to be really interested in the market. I think we're going to learn a little bit going out of it to see what the actual market does, and that's irrelevant of the result. So you can sort of put the result to the side and go, well, the market thought this was going to happen, and then you can move on to the next start after that.
Big fields, a lot can happen.
Yeah.
For an Inglis race, restricted race, this 2-year-old race doesn't get any better.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic race. I love the winner learning to fly, to work early, challenged, fought back. I loved her trials. I think she's a very good horse. Whether the setup's right for her on Saturday is the question, but I think she's the best horse in the race, to be honest. Let's head to race 7, the Tab Light Fingers Stakes, 1,200 metres, guys. Reece, you want to kick us off here? We see a return of In Secret, who looks to start short price favourite. You with her?
Yeah, I'm all chips in.
Chips in?
Yeah, she's the best.
Gamble responsibly.
She's the best. Her trials have been phenomenal. She's got just a great record overall. Even if there is sting out of the ground, people will probably think Fireburn, that's advantage her. I think she's only been beaten once on soft ground. It was a placing too. Nashville Willa rides. Her trials couldn't have been any better. She was bolting through the line her latest. Even though it was out the back, you had to watch it. He was clipping heels after the line. I think she's airborne. At the level weights, I think if they're going to go to where they want to get with her, she'll be putting these away.
Level weights, you make a fair point. 111 handicap radar. She won last start. Obviously, the Group 1 down the straight was unbelievable. They don't win races like that. Group 1s like that very often. J-Mac gave a huge salute there. Interesting little nuance that J-Mac decided to stick with Zugotcha, who's scratched with the temperature.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
Yeah, it is interesting, but Nash did trial her. Yeah. So I've sort of, it's hard to know exactly what happened, but James probably could have trialled her. If he thought she was, well, if he was going to get the race right, I thought he might have been trialling. So who knows? Nash might have been somehow fallen into place, and they said you can ride her race day too. So I don't know. That you never really know what goes on there, but you certainly don't lose anything with Nash on.
What do you make of that, Jules?
Yeah, it's one of those ones where I've learnt to block it out and just go, okay, now what I've got is this horse
This
with
horse
this
is
jockey.
scratched, so it's irrelevant?
Yeah,
Is
but
that-
even if Zugocha runs, my gut feeling is it got something to do with In Secret was going to go to the Newmarket with 51.5 and J Mac can't ride, so he goes, I'm going to stick with this other horse that I can be with for 2 or 3 rides. So is that part of it? And then if you start going down rabbit holes where you end up,
That's right.
She did beat In Secret last campaign
first
as well.
up,
which is-
absolutely did.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. She's the right horse. I mean, this is a horse that starts 2:30 in a Golden Rose and starts 3:10 in a Coolmore and absolutely demolishes them. And you got them at set
And
weights.
was smashed in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Coolmore.
So you got to think, okay, 2 trials, pretty well ready to rock and roll, minus synthetical filler, which I'm not too worried about when it goes on anyway, but it seems to me that if she did have issues with her feet, she hasn't got them now.
Yeah, yep.
So that's
It's only
another
a positive,
plus,
yep.
absolutely. And you're sort of going, okay, well, am I happy to back her against, say, the up-and-coming Sunshine in Paris off 49 days,
Yeah.
who looks to have plenty of ability, but inside draw, bit sticky. I just think In Secret's a really good horse. I think she wins here and she'll probably absolutely obliterate some with, say, 51.5 in a Newmarket,
Yeah.
but who rides?
Yeah.
She's the horse to beat. Clearly, we think we all know that. It's about price for me. I've got a couple of others. I think North Star Lass is the map horse. Rolls along out in front. Trialled well. Had a bit of intent about the trial. We'll talk about intent. Whether In Secret's obviously got bigger races in mind. North Star Lass might be the one there to win. The other one that I'm going to have or keep a close eye on throughout the campaign's a lot more love. And I'm going to have
I'm
something.
glad you brought her up. She trolled. They don't
They
troll
don't
much
trial
better.
any better. Ran 5th of 8th.
It's a
at
shame
Rose
she's
Hill.
bumped into
a star.
In Secret, but yeah, they don't troll any. She's still overs, really. Like, place price.
Oh, I agree. I have something on her. She might want a bit further, but I think she's returning super
She
order. A lot
hurdled
more
through the
love. Ryan stable, first up, good stats. They go well fresh. Just the barrier, she'll probably get back and have to find cover, but she'll be rattling home. I think she's in for a really good campaign. You got an opinion on her, or
I don't. I'm just excited.
In Secret?
Yeah, I'm just excited to see In Secret. I like Sunshine in Paris as a horse,
Yep.
but I want to see In Secret because I think we're going to get to see her down here in Melbourne. And she'll be mighty hard to beat in the Newmarket.
we're all In Secret on top. I'm just going to spec a lot more love at a price, maybe something each way, and keep a close eye on her for futures. We get to the Apollo. We go one champion in Secret to another in Animo. Really divisive horse. First up, there'll be a lot of turnover on the exchange for Animo. A lot of backers, a lot of layers. Which side are you with, Jules?
I'm going to be against him until probably black figures.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm happy to lay him in the red. And for you always go when you got a horse at this price, you go, okay, how can we get him beat? So what are the chinks? What are the weaknesses? And
Is that your first standpoint?
Yes, when you got a shorty,
Yep.
absolutely. Because and that's to either back or to not back. And I love being pointy end. I love backing those horses. But
Yep.
if you can't find a chink, then you really have a good bet and you back yourself in, and you either win or lose. But
Hard horse to find a chink,
and
surely.
this is the thing. So I'm sort of laying it off the sake of I need to lay something, and Animo is going to be the day, so going to be the horse. But you go through the facts and figures. I mean, the only thing I'm worried about with Animo, if you were to hard with Animo, 5 runs in the prep in the spring, and I thought they were 5 hard runs, and I didn't like his last one, and I just don't like horses going out off a poor one. And I know it doesn't matter too much when they come back in and they're such good horses like Animo is, but it always just a little bit of a negative for me when they go out off a poor one, and I thought his last one at Flemington wasn't terribly poor, let's not put it that way, but it wasn't brilliant. So I'm happy to be against him, but since he turned 4, I think it probably goes unnoticed what they did for this horse, that when he was a 2 and 3, you could always beat Animo, and you could always beat him because he was worse than midfield. And when he turned 4, they obviously changed his training, which wouldn't be easy to do, Reece,
right.
I ask you, is that they actually made him a horse that could sit 1-1. And now that he sits 1-1, he just about becomes that unbeatable force. And I look at the race and I go, geez, a lot of these horses are going to be behind him. And not many horses can get past Animo.
That's true. How do they do that? How do you teach a horse to show a bit more speed?
Well, that probably just identifies how good of a horse he is, because he can adapt to that. I mean, there's so many horses that have to be ridden a particular way to show their best, but they were able to put him in a spot and he still was probably better.
Yeah.
As you said, that you could beat him from west to midfield, but they've been putting him into his races. And the last trial, they put him into the trial, they banged him outside the leaders. So, look, they've got a phenomenal team. Cummings, they know what they're doing. They've got the best of the best. They took him to another level when he turned 4, you were right.
What he did 2 campaigns ago in the autumn, my Manio guy, he didn't parade well until he hit that Rosehill Guineas, which is fascinating. So that might be another little chink.
Yep.
Obviously, he still ran well when he won the Hobartville, beat Halal and Converge, but he didn't parade well until deep into that campaign. And I was a bit against him early in the spring because of that.
Yep.
I thought he might take a few runs, but the trial recently, 1,000 metres, he said he put him into the trial. I thought he trialled really well with a bit more intent.
Yep.
Obviously, he's going to be retired soon and go to stud, and they not here to mess around. You were a bit against the trial?
Well, it's interesting you say about how he didn't parade well, because I think if we watch from memory the last jump out, he'd had a decent sweat. You see him up the straight, he had a bit of foam around the neck, so he might have been up on his toes and still a bit fresh, so they give him a good trial, you know. I am against him, more like Jules, more so at the price than anything, and you had to lay something. Well, I thought we had to lay something, so I went with Animo. But yeah, look, I shouldn't speak on behalf of another trainer, but I thought just walking away from the trial, his latest one, I thought he was going to round them up and put them away, and I just didn't think he did. So wouldn't have walked away thinking this horse is airborne. I'm with Fangirl and Ice Bath. I think Ice Bath ran second to him first that last prep. That was 1,600. This is 1,400. She's drawn inside if she can just be a little bit closer than what she normally is. And Animo, if they put him into it, that's good, but I don't know. I thought he might have got a bit stuck from the draw maybe, but he might be good enough to win anyway. But I just thought at the price, I was against him.
The track's the key for those two. Ice Bath, better on the wet.
yeah.
Fangirl, dead set, needs it dry.
Yeah.
So you'll get a good idea with how the track's playing come race 8, and you'll probably be able to just focus on one of those horses.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Late. Who have you got on top if you're laying Animo, Jules?
No, I'm just going to be
Just
praying.
against him?
I'm praying. Yeah, I'm just hard against him. So against him to a certain point, and just hoping for anything else. Hoping, not particularly with one or the other. I'm always interested in a horse like Hinged. I always thought she had plenty of ability.
Has tried.
I just think she's getting a bit more dour as she gets older.
I just love to know what they think her right distance is.
I
Like,
don't
what's the
think-
right
yeah.
race for her?
Still
I
trying to
actually
work her out.
thought probably a Caulfield Cup in the spring was her go.
Yeah.
But they never went that way. So I'm interested to see what they do with her this prep.
Bodegon's a fascinating horse.
Yeah.
Second campaign was fantastic in a Cox Plate. He's first up here, Waller, second campaign in Australia. We see a horse springboard off a first campaign into a second, these internationals. Interested to see what the market does with him firstly, and then how he goes. I don't want to lose on him if I'm having a bet in the race, because I think he's a star.
Well, the market will tell you with these horses. So if the market, if he's, say, what price is he now, Tom?
$9.
Yeah, so if he's 9 and ends up $6.50, $7, you just got to have something on. Even if you're heavily invested in Animo, you just got to do something for your
and
favour.
Waller with 5 in the race, they generally get the betting
Yeah.
right as well. You're just able to watch the betting late. So
That's where I've sort of looked into it a little bit. Jules said you don't want to dig too far, but I feel Tim Clark's not quite Waller's, go-to, second to, third string. So I think the horse can run really well, but I thought Kieran's on Fangirl and Abdullah's on Hinged. I thought they were probably the next two in line. But look, you could be wrong. The horse might have come back better than what they thought. But that was my point of view on him,
Fair enough. You guys catch the basketball? Great man, breaking the record.
I've heard something about it, yeah.
They got
beat, didn't they?
Most importantly.
Before we get the best bets, if I said he's the greatest of all time, are you backing or laying that?
I just am not that invested in the sport that I could have an opinion that would
I'm with you. I don't.
Yeah.
You?
I think it's great for the sport, though, either way.
King LeBron.
Having those discussions.
You're with him.
King LeBron.
You're backing
He's
him.
got the name.
He's
got the name.
Well, MJ didn't have the name, no?
Oh, yeah, but he was before my era, so I'm not living in the past.
Interesting betting on the exchange as well. $2.92 for over 35.5 points. Good price.
Yeah.
Especially with the crowd that turned up. So might have been a bit staged. Who knows? Don't know.
There's some conspiracy theorists out there, Tom.
There's a lot in this room, I think. Let's get to your best bets, guys. Reece, you start.
Yeah, in secret, 100%. I'll be shocked if she gets beat. It'll only be from bad luck or something goes wrong with her, I think. I think level weights, what they've got targeted for her, she should be saluting.
There you go. We'll get to you late in a minute, Jules.
Yeah, Sandown against you here, Tommy. I'm going with She Dances. I don't think she's the best horse in the race, but I think she's the fittest horse, and I think she'll be forward midfield. I reckon each way, I'm keen to have a good bet on her.
Well, she's my lay of the day. She dances. I think
this is
she'll
fantastic.
So this is good first showing. One of us might not turn up
for next week.
Sathira in the same race. My best bet. I think she's a great bet
like
at $20 each way. Something to win. Triple the place. Betfair.com.au. I think it's a great price there. And as I said, I'm against She's Dances. Your lay of the day, Reece?
I'm going to go Chain of Lightning. Moods won't like that. from back at Pakenham, but I'm just not sure if she's up to these. She's probably the map horse, but I was happy to be against her at the price, I thought.
Just on that, the Pakenham trainers sitting up in the clock tower, you have a chat about horses and how they're going? And
be good if we had a cocktail.
oh, well, there you go.
Haven't quite got with the ages and time on. We're just sort of dealing with walking around and doing our best at the moment.
Binoculars at the top of the stairs
There's
there.
a bit of banter there, but unfortunately nothing quite like what Cranbourne and Caulfield would have been back in its day.
Oh, there you go. Well, you
Hopefully Moose doesn't watch this. He'll give me a clip.
Your lay of the day.
As long as we're talking about clock tower.
Yeah.
Sort of clock
Did
tower.
you didn't hear me on SEN the other day, did you?
No,
Oh.
didn't.
Did you saw
No,
that?
did I?
I said smash the
Oh,
something.
very
rather
good.
Smash the clock.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. Anyway,
We'll get back to that. I'm going to lay Thunderstruck up to about $6. I marked him about $6. I think I marked him $6, $6.50. So that current price, I'm going to be top price all throughout betting Thunderstruck.
I love it, guys. Thanks for joining me. Been an absolute
Pleasure.
You've
Yeah.
been great. You've got more excited from your first sentence. You lifted.
Well, couldn't go downhill, could I? Once you rock bottom, you can only go up from there.
We'll see how your tips go first. Been an absolute pleasure. Great to have two great minds on the show. Thanks for joining me on Lay Back with Betfair.
Gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-858-858.